Brogdon, you're recognized for Senate Bill 879.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Wilson, this bill is for you. I designed it around your previous comments. It is a flat tax, to move to a flat tax. And I have, again, we can have questions maybe from the Tax Commission, but today we could lower our state income tax all the way down to 4.18%, and it would be revenue neutral to the state. Was that a due pass, Senator Wilson? No. Oh. With that, I would yield for questions.
Senator Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are you aware that that's people right now that make a lot of money that actually itemize their deductions are sitting about 4% in state income tax? Would you agree with that?
Certainly I would.
Senator, follow-up? No. Senator Adelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where do you get 3.423? Is that a religious number or?
That's pi. Yeah, that's pi. R squared.
Senator Brogdon, will you take a question from the chair?
Certainly.
I know at one point your goal of this mechanism was to find a revenue neutral approach, but in the interest of full disclosure to the members, the actual fiscal impact information that you received is what?
This was given to me, and Dawn, you may have to help me. She handed this to me just when I was walking in a few minutes ago. In 2010, it'll be a $283 million impact. And this is what I would like for Dawn to discuss. Tell us how, because on my sheet, I do have it's supposed to be revenue neutral from the language of my bill. And members, what I have done and this is not a new bill, the content of my bill gets rid of a lot of the corporate welfare or the corporate tax deductions that we give away. And Senator Mazie has ran legislation the last couple of years trying to look, at least verify if those tax credits are still worthy of a tax credit, if they are bringing in jobs, if they are adding to the economy, to the state of Oklahoma, and if they're not, to sunset those. So that is part of this legislation. Senator Mazie, Mr. Chairman, if you wouldn't mind, I would like to have Dawn explain the difference here.
I think Mr. Johnson wants to take that, Senator Brogdon, if that's okay.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yes, the percentage that's in the bill now is from an analysis a couple of years ago when we were trying to look at a revenue neutral figure. That's back when we had method 2. That's when other things were different in our tax law. So the bill as drafted is not revenue neutral. It has the impact, but we've spoken with Senator Brogdon about coming up with a revenue neutral number, and it's around 4%, but it depends also on how you treat deductions and different things. So there's lots of variables. But I think the intent was to try to make it revenue neutral, and we can come up with ways to try to put a rate that would do that.
Therefore, Senator Brogdon, do you plan on changing this legislation so it comes back to your goal of being revenue neutral?
Well, I certainly do, Mr. Chairman. I figured when I saw this bill in your committee, it must have either be a real good bill or a real bad bill. I wasn't sure what your decision was on that, but yes, certainly my goal is to make it revenue neutral to the state and make it much more fair and equitable to all the taxpayers.
Senator Jolly for question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Senator Brogdon, I don't see in the bill where there's any exclusion for those that are living in poverty. I don't think that it's right for us to take money from those who are trying and just aren't making very much. When you come back, if you were to adjust this where it was revenue neutral, would you also be willing to make sure that we aren't going to be taxing people who are in poverty?
Certainly, and you know, that kind of goes back to the former bill that we just passed, and I'm definitely interested in that, Senator Jolly. I'd be happy to work with you.
Follow up, if I may.
Follow up.
Senator Brogdon, I'm willing to support the idea today if I have an understanding that we're not going to tax people in poverty and that you're going to do your best to make it revenue neutral before we see it again. And if I have that assurance from you, I'll be supportive of it
I will
today.
give you that assurance, and I have, you know, talked to the chairman over the last couple of years about this, and he knows my goals as well, and that is part of them. Thank you, Senator Jolly.
What do you do with the bill?
Do pass for now. Second.
Got a do pass from Senator Jolly, a second from Senator Stanislawski.
Is that a
The
second?
ever loquacious, oh, we're
Second.
moving to debate, the ever loquacious Senator Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't take too long,
Thank you.
but I'm not sympathetic about your back at all. But anyway, Senator Brogdon, I'm
Out of
gonna
order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next.
I'm going to have an amendment on the floor that will exempt the first 200% of poverty. People in 200% of poverty won't pay any income tax, and then you'll have to adjust that upward to be revenue neutral, in fact. But the bigger issue here is that we seem to think in this legislature, and it's not just in recent years, it's been for 100 years, that if we keep cutting taxes, somehow we're better off. We're still one of the poorest states in the nation. There's probably some level of tax that we need to make as a percentage of GSP or something, and we just keep ignoring that. But we seem to think the magic bullet was always tax. We're going to cut this tax and somehow we're going to prosper. Kind of reminds me of when President Lincoln, somebody came to him and said, that Ulysses S. Grant is drinking a lot of whiskey, he's a drunk. So the president said, well, get my other generals some whiskey too, and find out what he's drinking, thinking that whiskey was the reason. So it may not be the reason. And what we don't do very well here is we don't do an analysis on the value of our revenues. And we have a purpose for revenues, and there needs to be a purpose. Everything we do seems to be regressive around here. We kind of keep dumping it off on the poor people. Let's take the 8,000 people that make $1 million or more in this state, and let's make them tax exempt, and then we can go ahead and do business. But that seems to be where it is, if that's what we have to do. But this is regressive. It's a piece of legislation I can't support. But in case it passes, which it will, I do have that amendment. I wish you'll take it when it gets to the floor.
Thank you, Senator Wilson.
Comments to finish debate, Senator Brogdon.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman and members, very briefly, I've already stated that my goal is to make this revenue neutral, to make it fair. This bill will help the poorest citizens around this state. Senator Gumm, I personally believe, and this may be where you and I have a debate, I believe that the average working individual should expect more from this body. We give away hundreds of millions of dollars, and I believe Senator Mazie has found, I think, well over $1 billion in corporate welfare. That's my word, not his. In corporate welfare that we give out to businesses. And as a business owner for the last 32 years, I am all for the private sector. But I am more for individual rights and individual liberty and empowering the people. And I believe this legislation would allow the families in this state to keep more of their money and to spend it where they want rather than spending it where we want. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee members, I'd urge your support.
Clerk, call the roll.
Senator Adelson.
Aye.
Senator Aldridge. Senator Ford. Senator Gumm. Senator Ivester. Senator Johnson. Senator Jolly. Senator Nichols. Senator Reynolds. Senator Rice. Senator Sparks. Senator Wilson. Senator Stanislawski.
Aye.
Senator Mazie.
Aye.
Senator Lamb. 9 ayes, 6 nays.
Seeing 9 ayes and 6 ayes, Senate Bill 879 will be reported out with a do pass recommendation. Members, what
Thank
we're
you,
going to try
members.
to
Mr.
do
Chairman.
is get all the non